Hi everybody, Dugras here with Dugras Reports. Another driving in the car philosophy type video coming at you today. If you have a suggestion for what I should call this series, credit card philosophy seems kind of boring. Let me know if you have a suggestion. Just put it in the comment section. Anywho, today we'll be talking about paying cash rates for a hotel versus using rewards points. Or another way of putting it, how bad does a points redemption have to be for me to pay cash? You probably know I am a points guy. In other words, my goal is to never pay for any travel, not to do paid travel. Now, of course, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to always use points. For example, I think it's totally acceptable to cash out a transferable currency like American Express membership rewards or Chase Ultimate Rewards or something like that to pay for some sort of travel, as long as the math supports it. Other examples could be using the Capital One Travel Eraser feature with the Venture X or Venture Card, or the Altitude Reserve from US Bank, which has real-time rewards, which permits you to redeem those points at 1.5 each. So that's totally acceptable. But most of the time, I'm not going to use the cash rate unless there is a situation where the math just really says that I should, and I have in the past. But here's what I'm getting at. I have a fair amount of points with IHG. Between my wife and I, we have over 200,000. I have a fair amount of points with Hilton. I don't remember the exact amount, but over 150,000, I believe. And then when you think about Hyatt, Hyatt's one of my favorite hotel chains, but I don't have the Hyatt credit card. I don't have Hyatt Elite status. I just transfer Chase Ultimate Reward points over as I need them. I have a handful of points trapped at Hyatt for situations in the past where I've canceled stays, but it's a minimal amount, maybe 20, 30,000 at most. I've got a couple reservations for Hyatts at our London stay this coming summer, which I may or may not use. So if I cancel those, that'll be trapped at Hyatt. But I can always send my Ultimate Reward points over to Hyatt and book that way at a pretty good value. But there are going to be times where the cash rate is better than using points. But in my book, it has to be pretty bad. And here's what I mean by that. Let's say I'm going to Clinton, Iowa. That's a city I actually went to last year. And I'm just staying at the Hampton Inn there. I'm pretty sure I paid 20,000 points for my stay there. And even if I didn't, let's just for the sake of argument say I'm looking at a one-night stay and it's 20,000 points. Now, if you value Hilton points at half a cent each, that would be the cashback equivalent of $100. So, to do really simple valuation math, you could say if the cash rate is more than $100 per night, it makes more sense to use points. Or you could say something like, if the cash rate is under $100 per night, it makes more sense to use cash. But that's an overly simple valuation and really not the one I'm going to use for a couple reasons. The obvious reason is when you're paying with cash, you can earn rewards. So maybe you're paying with your Hilton card and you're earning some kind of rewards. I don't know what that might be, but let's just say you're earning $20 worth of rewards from your Hilton card. Well, then that changes the math to where you might say if the cash rate is $115, I'm going to go ahead and use my Hilton card because then I'll be earning points that are worth around $20. So really on a net basis, it's only like I'm paying $95. So that's a consideration. Another consideration is, I don't know that it's fair to value Hilton points at exactly half a cent each. I think if you do any sort of cherry picking whatsoever, you can probably get more like 0.7 each. But then the thing that really comes to my mind is, as the most important factor, although one that I don't think a lot of people think about, and that's the abundance of points. Or in other words, me just holding on to Hilton points does no good whatsoever. I don't have the option to cash out my Hilton points. I either use them or they just sit there and they don't accrue interest. It's not like every year they give you 5% return on your points just because you didn't use them. So they are constantly devaluing at least a little bit just by sitting there. So my philosophy is, before I bust into my travel savings account, which is cash and does earn interest and is super flexible and I can use it for other things, before I do that, the cash rate has to be really bad, or excuse me, the points rate has to be really bad compared to the cash rate. Say $200 or slightly under for that hotel. I'm going to use my 20,000 Hilton points, obviously. If it's $100, I'm still probably going to use my Hilton points, because what else am I going to do with my Hilton points? You know, first of all, it's not going to be $100 a night. I think the era of the $100 a night nice hotel, like a Hampton Inn, a Holiday Inn, etc., is pretty much dead. I think that's over and gone. So on a basic stay like that, I'm probably getting at least 0.7 cents per point. So, but if I found that Hampton Inn by Hilton for $100 a night, I'm still probably going to use my Hilton points, my 20,000 Hilton points, because I don't want to dip into my travel savings account, pull $100 out of there, because that $100 can grow. It can be used for a much better value, and my Hilton points are just going to sit there. Now, there is a point, like, if I could get that Hilton for $40 a night, still use my Hilton card, still have it count as a night, still earn points on it, well then, yeah, I'm going to pay the cash rate of $40 a night. But if it's close to break-even valuation, I'm going to use the points, because my points are just sitting there. Now, some people are going to argue something like, well, Doug, shouldn't you save that up for some time in the future? You're going to go to a Hilton resort, and it's going to be awesome, and you're going to get like $0.015 per point, and maybe in the future you're going to get the Aspire card, and you're going to get all these credits and those sorts of things. Well, that could happen, and I think if you're someone who travels a lot and you're doing the higher end stays a lot, that probably makes sense. But anytime in the past, in my, almost not quite 4 years of being in the points and miles game, anytime in the past that I've passed up a fairly decent redemption in the hope of having an amazing redemption, for the most part, that's never really worked out. I mean, my family's not the kind that's going to just go stay in a resort for an entire week. Now, that gets into a whole nother subject, is, for me, the 5th night free with Hilton or the 4th night free with IHG isn't really that valuable, because it's just not working out so that I'm staying in one place for 4 or 5 nights straight. The places I can afford to stay in for 4 or 5 nights in a row, I really don't want to, because that's kind of lame. And the places that I would want to stay in for 4 or 5 nights in a row, which would be rare, but those super fancy places I can't afford. I just don't have enough points, and I'm just not earning enough points. They're not easily scaled up. It's a little harder to manufacture hotel points. Not impossible, but a little harder than it is with, like, Chase, for example, or Amex, where they're just constantly throwing things at me. I suppose you could mention something like Amex points do transfer to Hilton 1 to 2, and occasionally they run bonuses, so that could be an opportunity there. But this is how my brain works. I think about anytime it's break even or close to break even when it comes to using points versus using cash, I'm always going to use the points. A, I try not to spend my family budget at all, and B, my savings account specifically for travel is limited. You know, there's less than $1,000 in there, so I have to be careful about how I use it. Put a comment down below. Let me know if you agree or disagree and what factors I am or am not taking into consideration. Please subscribe to this channel. And as always, may your spending be frugal and may your points be plenteous. Thanks for watching.